This is the Bush Whisperer coming at you from the most beautiful penguin sanctuary. I've just passed the edge of the sanctuary. Well, I'm on the verge of the sanctuary, shall I say. Near to Boulders, Simonstown, southern tip of Africa, Cape Town. Imagination. I come to talk to you today about how the imagination is powerful and just exactly what we can understand about the imagination. Trying not to trip over the sandbags. Got a lot of sandbags on the ground here on the left. It's in order to prevent the erosion. Obviously, they've got to protect the habitat for the penguin mating. The imagination is something we all know from our childhood. Remember when you were a child how you could slip into your imagination, travel deep through the sphere of imagination into another world far away. And so the imagination has a lot to do with constructing realities. And, sometimes I stub my toe, it's quite sore. What we can understand about the nature of reality by studying the way in which the imagination works is quite telling. It gives us an insight into the way in which consciousness manifests. We can consider the imagination as a storehouse of images, and a storehouse of images through which we can travel. And we can travel any route through the storehouse of images. And as we travel through the storehouse of images, they arrange themselves around us in the patterns through which we travel down the road, proverbial road, which is essentially one image linked to another, forming a proverbial chain of images that becomes digested by the mind, and the subconscious churns it out in the form of a reality. So what we can experience as reality is a series of images, snapshots, if you will, of reality. And it's vibrating really, really fast. The imagination is essentially what contains the sphere of reality through which we are experiencing this world. And this is why we can travel in our imagination, deep through the imagination, to find alternative realities within ourselves. The shaman is a master of traveling through these alternative realities within oneself in order to gain insights of the self and observe the workings of the parts of the self, those living forces, the guides that structure the nature of this reality through the consciousness field, and basically give rise to the aspects of consciousness which we can consider as the powers and the principalities of being. So it is, the nature of this reality needs to be questioned. It needs to be questioned very deeply. Because of the facility of the imagination to be able to sculpt any reality you wish, one has to consider why it is we're experiencing this reality. Smash the like button and share this. Get the algorithms working for this channel, please. Reality is a fundamental journey through the self. And the fundamental journey through the self sculpts what is necessary to be experienced in terms of potentiality, so that this reality has a causal principle. The causal principle meaning that there's a successive development of fate through the nature of this reality. I decided to climb down that patchy patch of rock rather than stub my toe again. My toe is still a little bit sore. And that experience of pain, of a sore toe, is something bound in my imagination. I have experienced different states of consciousness where pain doesn't exist, where we realize that it's something that we imagine, just like all of this reality is something that we imagine. And the cues are given to the imagination by the central nervous system as electrical impulses, which are effectively hormones that are being processed in such a manner to create these cables of electricity through which electricity can move along lines of salt, shall we say, the salt of the earth. So to understand that when you are dreaming, and this is quite important to grasp, when you are dreaming, you are as much in reality as when you're awake. And your dream state reality is no less fundamental than the reality you experience in the waking consciousness. From a shamanic perspective, this is the dream time. And understanding this as the dream time gives us an insight into the nature of consciousness. We like to think of things in the imagination as being not true, not real, and that reality is real and true. And this is a misnomer. This creates a delusional disconnection from our subconscious. And then we stop realizing how the subconscious is sculpting reality around us, and that the entirety of this reality is essentially a subconscious experience being pushed into consciousness. And that there are so much more, there are so many more aspects to this reality to be experienced. At least I didn't fall on my face. That one can sort of miss the point in the daily waking life of why we're here. And this is generally done. This is normally the pattern that we live through. We tend to go through life with our little goals, our little intentions, the things we think we are, the things we think we want. But these are all fantasies. And it's all essentially the imagination. If you want to consider the powers of the heart, the powers to polarize, and the way in which the polarity of being gets expressed through the experience of being present. This is the principle of polarization that brings us all into alignment for us, and brings us to the point of being able to experience relativity as a reflection of the objectivity of this polarity. For polarity, when experienced as a subjective experience, becomes more of an impression, and when we objectify the impression, it becomes a relativity. So the impressions of reality would be something to consider when considering the nature of this imagination. For we think of the imagination as what we are doing, what we are consciously imagining. We don't realize that what we aren't consciously imagining is also the imagination, and that the subconscious is also operating through the imagination, and that everything that we can experience is imagination. In fact, even imagination is imagination. This is something to consider. And this is why the symbols are so fundamentally important in understanding these vast, profound principles, these life-giving principles, what we can consider and call the occult principles of life and of being. And it's through the sphere of imagination that intuition finds its expression. For the intuition is the way in which the imagination is absorbed by the consciousness field directly, before it is turned into codes that can be understood in various different ways. So the intuition is the direct voice of the imagination, as the imagination is expressing into our heart space the reality of relativity of being as experienced both consciously and subconsciously in terms of objective and subjective reality. It's fundamentally important for us to grasp this. So next time when you observe reality, I want you to consider that it's an image. It's a fast-moving image, like a film. And that film is bound in your imagination, by your imagination as an expression of the imagination. And that everything that you think that you are is something that you've imagined. I've spoken about this to various different degrees throughout the nature of these talks. Though now I want to give you exercise that you can use with the imagination. I want you to consider sitting down and learning to use imagination to shape reality. We're not looking to manifest things, because that's pointless. What you're looking to manifest are aspects of yourself that are deeply hidden and forgotten. So the true imagination is able to show us these hidden aspects of ourselves, is able to reveal to us when we are disconnected from ourselves. And this is fundamental to the growth of the spiritual path and to being able to embrace all that you are in this reality. Decided not to fall on my face again, or almost fall on my face. So the exercise I want you to begin practicing is a very simple one. I want you to imagine for a moment that to close your eyes, practice a relaxation exercise, and to imagine yourself breathing in something magical. It doesn't have to be anything particular. You can imagine that you're breathing in a web of life. You can imagine that you're breathing in light. You can imagine that you're breathing in sound. There are lots of different ways of doing this. The imagination is a very profound instrument, and it can restructure reality. Depending on which sense you're imagining that you're breathing in, will be the particular chakra that you're activating. So when you imagine that you're breathing in a smell, when you imagine that smell permeating your whole being, then you imagine how every part of you, every cell, every sinew, every part of your tissue is starting to smell like that smell. I would suggest frankincense or myrrh. Wow, this light is bright, white reflecting in my eyes. And as you breathe this smell in, I want you to imagine that the smell is permeating through your body into your mind, and that your mind is starting to smell like the smell. And imagine that the smell becomes the total accentuation of your being, until the smell permeates every aspect of you, and become one with the smell. You'll notice that the smell is going to open something up within you. Then at another time, I'd like you to imagine breathing in a taste. This is a wonderful contemplation to practice. And you allow this taste, it must be a sweet taste, it tastes like honey, or it tastes like apple, or it tastes like grape, pleasant taste. And imagine this taste becomes a permeating taste, that you can taste this through all aspects of your physical being. It's a bit of a trick of imagination to learn to do this. But as you do this, you start to open your chakras one by one. Obviously the smell will open your base root chakra. The taste will open your causal chakra, the Svadhisthana, as it is called in the Vedic tradition. Good morning. And then you can imagine that you see light. And you're breathing in this light. And this light permeates your body. You can imagine your skin as pores. And as you bring this light, you breathe it in. You notice that the light goes deeper with every breath, until the light is permeating your entire physical body. And you breathe it through your body into your mind, until your whole mind becomes an expression of light. That would be your third chakra, your Manipura chakra, your solar plexus chakra. Then, and not to do these all at once, but you can progressively learn to do them all at once. Start with one at a time, one per day. And in time you'll be able to run through all of the senses and open all of the chakras. It's a very simple way. It's a very grounded way of opening the chakras, using the imagination, which is a very powerful tool. At another point, I'd like you to imagine the sensation of breathing in sense, physical sensation. And you start to become aware as you breathe in the sensations of physicality through every cell of your body, till every cell in your body feels like it's vibrating. It'll feel like it's resonating like this. That's a sense of touch. Everything will be moving. Everything will be. And to breathe the sense of touch, until you can breathe the sense of touch into your mind, until you can actually feel touch in your mind. And when you think thoughts in this state of consciousness, the thoughts will seem objective. They will seem like little thought objects floating through your mind. And you'll be able to actually experience the objectivity of thought in terms of thought objects. That would be the heart, sense of touch. Then of course there is sound, the sphere of sound. To breathe in the sound of the sea, until you breathe the sound in and you feel the sound becoming an emanation from each cell. And as you follow the sounds in, the sound fills your entire body, and your entire body becomes an ocean of sound. Until you travel beyond your physical body and you start to imagine the sound moving through your body into your mind. and the mind becomes full of the sound. Obviously this is the Svadhisthana chakra. And then we have the principle of thought, that you're breathing thoughts into your body. And as you bring thoughts into your body, thoughts permeate your body, and your whole body becomes an expression of thought. And you can feel each cell as a thought, resonating thought, until the whole body is being imagined as if it were created of thought. The body is a body of thought. And then allow these thoughts to permeate until your entire mind, this is the easy part, is the structure of thought. You'll notice that when you're breathing in from your thought, you're breathing in from your mind into your body in a sense. So this is two-way junction that comes in the principle of thought. The thought sort of bucks the trend, so to speak. This will bring you into a very, very, very high frequency vibration. I wouldn't do this one too much. I would focus a lot of time on the first three principles: on the smell, on the taste, and what is seen. And then I would concentrate on the sensation of touch. And as you practice this, you'll become more adept at this. You notice your ESP will start to awaken automatically. Your instincts will become totally super engaging. Your groundedness will reflect in nature. You'll be able to see nature's messages coming to you. In the way that shaman are able to read the omen, you'll start to observe changes in nature. You'll walk down the road and you'll notice the bird on the tree that's singing a slightly different song. That song will catch your awareness, will catch your ear, cause you to start asking questions. Why is that song different? I always hear these birds. You'll start to become more aware of the sounds around you. You'll start to become more aware of the sensations of your body, of the smells, of the tastes of the food that you're eating. You'll probably want to change some of the food you're eating, because your taste will start to engage into such a heightened sense that you probably will realize that there are certain foods you're eating that you shouldn't be eating because they don't really taste good, and that the imagination had told you that that food tasted good because you had imagined the food to taste good. So you got addicted to tasting the food as you imagined the food to taste. And so this way we're starting to gauge the field of imagination, starting to get a deeper insight into the way in which the imagination actually operates. I hope this is helpful. Smash a like button, share it, share this video, get it out there. Do subscribe to the channel. There are daily lessons coming. It's a very simple, very grounded way of contemplating the sense. Good morning. And being able to become in tune with the deeper aspects of the consciousness field without forcing anything, without forcing any over activation of any other nodes, any other chakras. This is a very sensuous way of engaging with the energy field, and it's a great way to get started with working with the chakras, to build a relationship with that aspect of consciousness which is a living being that is expressed in your body as energy through chakra. I want you to consider that for a moment. And that by engaging with the imagination in this way, you're starting a dialogue of communication between yourself and the being that represents that chakra, represents that state of mind, represents that hermetic principle as it's moving through the consciousness and through the body in order to manifest this reality through this form. This is the Bush Whisperer, sharing a few words with you. I hope you have an absolutely gorgeous day. In fact, I know you're going to have a gorgeous day. Don't forget to smile. Make the best of the day. Om Shanti.